Great experiences build great leaders. Great leaders build great teams. This is Building Great Sales Teams.
All right, guys, welcome back for another episode of Building Great Sales Teams. Definitely say what's up in the chat. I'm going live on this one. If you're listening, this is one of those episodes that would be fantastic for you guys to see on YouTube. And obviously, if you're watching it live now, you got what you need. You got your screen, hopefully your computer screen in front of you. If you're watching this on your phone, again, come back to YouTube at some point and check this out. I'm going to be sharing my screen and showing you guys some cool stuff. Okay, so last week we went over 90, right? We went over EOS. We went over a few things. I actually got to move for this. We went over building blocks, right, in your business and in particular sales teams, because that's what we talk about on the show. And I walk through the Vision Traction Organizer, what it's like to put that together, as well as I walk through the quarterly rocks and how to reverse engineer those goals and to start setting up your scorecards. And so I was doing it in the truck and I was driving because I wanted to make sure that I got an episode out. And I was basically running out of time. Thursday evening is the last day I have to record an episode so it can release on Friday. And so this one, same thing. It's going to release on Friday. We had a great episode earlier in the week. We had Mike Barron. He's a fantastic sales trainer for high-ticket closers. He's got a whole team, high-ticket closers for his own business, as well as he trains other people to do it as well. So check that episode out if you get a chance. Otherwise, let's get into building blocks part 2. And I do want to show you guys this visual before I get into the scorecard concept. I want to show you this visual because so many people start out their business as an entrepreneur or a solopreneur, right? And so when you look at EOS and the way it's structured and the way that you set yourself up in 90, the top 2 positions, you've got visionary here and you got integrator here, right? And so the top 2 positions, they're on top of each other. Visionary at the top, integrator right under that. I'm trying to explain it for people that are listening to the podcast as well. If you're familiar with this concept, this episode is going to go very smooth for you. If you're not familiar with it, go ahead and read What the Heck is EOS? It's a great book. It really breaks it down easily. One of my clients makes every one of his sales reps coming onto the company read it. And I think it's one of the best things that he does, and it integrates them right into the systems of the company right away. And so, look, I know it's 5 o'clock in the evening and we're live, but drop a like. This is not what you want to be looking at 5 o'clock on a Thursday evening. But hopefully you're in front of your YouTube if you're listening to the recorded version, and you're able to see what I'm talking about here and what I'm showing you guys, because it really is a game changer. So most solopreneurs are wearing these 6 hats here, okay? And so what you're going to see, if you're listening in, you got the visionary at the top, you got the integrator right under that, and under the integrator, there's 4 key players in the business typically. You've got marketing, sales, operations, and finance. When you're a solopreneur, you are doing them all, right? When you're a solopreneur, you're wearing 6 hats in your business and you don't even know it. You just think, oh, I'm an entrepreneur. It's normal to wear 6 hats. It's not. Once you get to 7 figures in business, this will no longer be normal. You will be drowning and your customers will suffer. If you have any hires at that point, they will suffer, and your product and your reputation will suffer. And in most businesses, that's what's going to happen right around the $1 million mark, right? If you're a solopreneur, every business is different. I figured out I can do about $500,000 a year in consulting and coaching before I have to start delegating or doing one-to-many versus one-to-one. And so when we walk through this, Billy Bob is going to be our business owner. And I'm using Billy Bob because Billy Bob's Burgers is our favorite restaurant to go to as a family when we do family date night. So Billy Bob is our business owner, right? And Billy Bob, let's just say he's got a roofing company. So obviously he's in these 6 positions. So his goal when we're looking at this is to get somebody for marketing. So he no longer has to be the key player. Key player is a term I use a lot. I don't care what your titles are. I don't care about CSO, CMO, COO, any of that stuff. CEO. If you're using that title as a small business, you're just doing it for clout. I'm sorry, it's just truth. You know what I'm saying? You're a CEO, 101, one of two. That's not a CEO. That's a corporate structure, right? And I've been guilty of this too. All right. So when I say key players, I mean when it comes to the marketing, Billy Bob is responsible for all the marketing. When it comes to the sales, same thing. When it comes to operations, same thing. When it comes to finance, all right. Let's pretend that Billy Bob has gotten to $1 million in his construction business. He's at $1 million now. And so he's hired a few people. So let's look at marketing. All right. He's hired two people, not two people in marketing, but he has two people in marketing roles. One of them is a company. He's got a lead gen company bringing him in new leads. Their only role in this situation is to generate leads. And he gets to pay them directly per lead or a retainer plus advertising costs, whatever the case may be. All right. And so he's also got Jennifer. Jennifer is an admin in his company. Jennifer is holding multiple roles, but in the marketing division, she is responsible for CRM maintenance, 90-day leads, which is basically putting together a 90-day list for the salespeople to outbound, and then build funnels for the salespeople. So these can be just general contact funnels or specific to whatever they're trying to do that week or whatever the case is. So Jennifer, and you can go as far. What I love about this structure and what you guys are seeing is you're able to basically customize these things. So obviously I'm using the software called 90.io, and I have a referral link in the body of the post for you guys, as well as in the show notes. But anyways, so we've got these two positions under Billy Bob, who is the head of marketing right now. All right, Billy Bob is also the head of sales. So let's go over there. He's also the sales manager, right? So when I look at a sales structure or an opportunity structure, when you look at the key player role at the top, at minimum, that's going to be a regional director. And it may even be like a VP of sales, right? But at the end of the day, whoever is responsible for sales is in that key player role. To me, one market sales manager is not the key player in sales, okay? So I'm, in this case, Billy Bob's a key player in sales, and he needs to replace himself soon because he's also the residential sales manager, right? And then we got Johnny over here to the side, which is the commercial sales manager. Now, Johnny is 101. Commercial sales take a lot more knowledge, a lot more relationships. It's a longer term position. So right now it's 101, but we know once Johnny hits a certain sales mark, we're going to hire him some help, maybe an appointment setter or even another salesperson that's going to help him expand the commercial sales division, right? As far as residential sales, that's where 90% of the business is coming from right now. So when we break that out, we've got 3 salespeople working for Billy Bob. Now, really, let's go back and look at this thing and look at how many positions Billy Bob's really holding. It's not just 6, right? And so we've got him at the visionary, at the integrator. He's overseeing the marketing. He's overseeing the sales. He's also the residential sales manager. And the responsibilities for that residential sales manager are recruit salespeople, train salespeople, manage salespeople, and sales. So Billy Bob's making his own sales. That he should be down here too. He's also managing salespeople. He's also responsible for the overall sales division. So that's 3 positions within the sales opportunity structure that we need to replace him in, right? And then he's the integrator and the visionary, overseeing marketing, operations, and finance. So this is what we mean when we say, as a solopreneur, you're wearing all the hats, right? These are key positions in the company that you are running when your business is doing maybe 100 to 500,000, right? So now when we look at these individual sales positions, okay, what are they responsible for? And this is a very common understanding that we need to keep sales responsible for sales. So Blake, Ryan, and Tom are our salespeople in this case, right? And again, if you can, get over to YouTube, check out this episode on YouTube, because you're going to be able to see the visual that I'm looking at for this. Hopefully, you're able to put it together in your head. That's something that I can do in terms of accountability charts, and it means you're probably an integrator if you can do that. All right. So Blake, is a salesperson. His responsibilities: generate leads, close leads, and account management. Ryan, salesperson. Tom, salesperson. Billy Bob is managing 3 salespeople. Okay. And also Johnny, the commercial salesperson, Billy Bob is managing him as well because he's the head of all sales. All right, let's get into operations and check this out. All right, Jennifer is also in operations. So you see Jennifer in 2 places here. All right, so we know now if they're in 2 places, if we have to divide their roles into 2 places, we eventually need to replace them in one of those places. Which is the best place to replace them in? Well, in my mind, Jennifer is probably a longtime admin with the company, right? And she's doing the contracts, proposals, processing, phones, and front desk, right? And then we go over here and she's doing CRM maintenance, 90-day leads, and funnel builds, right? And so Jennifer is probably an integrator in training in my mind. So long term, if I'm going to promote from within, I'm going to put in Jennifer long term into this role where she's going to oversee all other 4 roles, or Johnny, my commercial salesperson, or my future residential sales manager, they could all be moved into this integrator role. Or if we're over $1 million and we're setting up a corporate structure, that could eventually be the COO, right? And so what's really cool is if I identify that early on and Jennifer's like, man, it would be really cool if all I did was run operations one day. Well, look, Jennifer, that position, I would love, or Billy Bob would love for you to fire him and get him out of that position so he can continue to do well in sales and marketing and integrating for the company, as well as being the visionary, coming up with all the new ideas and everything, right? And so this is where your employees and your people can start to see their opportunities within your structure visually. You know, when you sit down across an employee and you tell them like, hey, we're building a multi-million-dollar business here, you know, in 2 years we'll be at 5 million, and I'm going to need this position, this position, this position, this position, and you're going to be the first to be promoted into those positions if you do well here. That's really hard for somebody that's entry level into a company or an employee to understand and even be able to visualize. But if you show it to them here, it makes sense. Hey, you're, you know, Mr. Business Owner, you're holding 7 different positions. Let me take one of those away from you, right? So Jennifer, her long-term plan is to get into that key player operations role. I like to call it a systems director and oversee all operations, right? All right, the other person we have in operations is Veronica. She's a VA. She's handling contracts, phones. She's an executive assistant to Billy Bob because he needs one because he's holding 7 different hats, right? And then she's also a general admin. Then we go over to finance. Billy Bob's got some help on the finance side. He's doing $1 million a year. He needs a bookkeeper doing his books, so he outsources that to a bookkeeping company. All right, this is everybody in the company. This is how you have, what is this? Actual people in the company is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 people running a $1 million company. Now, the construction work is probably done by subs, and the salespeople are likely 1099. So technically, you've got three W-2 people, and if the owner's not W-2, then you only got 1 W-2, and you got everybody else is 1099. And this is a common setup in most construction companies, all right? And so I wanted to make sure y'all saw the visual of this accountability chart. And you can also see within these positions, you know, when you look at Billy Bob's sales role as the overall key player in sales, his job is client relationship, client communication, outreach strategy, and customer retention. So when the shit hits the fan, Billy Bob's stepping in. And that usually happens with the owner of the company. But as he promotes himself to visionary, he won't have to be the one long-term dealing with those things, right? And so that's the visual that I think opens a lot of people's eyes to realize, oh my gosh, I'm holding 7, 8, 9 different positions in the company. I've got to start replacing myself. I've got to figure out a way to sign a contract with someone and say, hey, if you bring me a new customer and you start being responsible for customer acquisition, then I can replace myself as a salesperson. So Billy Bob's already done a good job of that. He's replaced himself as a salesperson here, but he's still the sales manager and the head of overall sales, overseeing commercial as well. And so his ultimate goal is to replace himself in all 4 of these key player positions, which is marketing, sales, operations, and finance, right? And, we're talking probably 5 million plus mark is where he needs to replace himself as the integrator. Most business owners are visionaries. And so most business owners, if somebody has a $2 to $5 million business, they are walking around right now a little lost and they're looking for an integrator. So if all this stuff makes you geek out, you're probably an integrator and you probably have a 6-figure role with equity stake waiting for you somewhere. So make sure that you understand that that is an opportunity out there for you guys. Okay, so that's the accountability chart. That's one of the key systems when you look inside of 90.io, the software that I'm showing you guys this right now. All right, let's get into rocks. So we talked about rocks in the last episode, but I want to show you guys how to hold your team accountable to their rocks. So I've set up a faux account here, and we got our salespeople. We're going to focus on the sales division because this is building great sales teams, right? And so we're focusing on the sales division. We got teams right here. We got leadership, sales, and you can do operations, finance. You can have individual team meetings, all that good stuff, and you can run them in this software, which is what I love about it. All right, so let's walk through it. We got Tom, Ryan, and Blake. All right, Tom's goal, Tom's rock for the quarter is 30 sales, okay? The reason in that I always tie these rocks to something that they'll get if they execute on the rock, right? And so if he executes, he's going to get 75K in earnings. And I know this may be a little hard to see, but I'll walk you guys through it. He's going to buy himself an investment property. That's his reward to himself. Now, hopefully your company culture is all about growing and developing yourself, making investments so you don't have to work the rest of your life, and you set up your retirement plan, your personal retirement plan, and then also data-centric goals, right? And so that's his rock. All right. Now, this is important. You got to remember this, because if that's his rock, and a rock is a quarterly goal, and there's 13 weeks in a quarter, well, that means that he needs to make 2 sales a week in order to hit this rock, right? So keep that in mind. All right, so Ryan's goal is 25 sales, and he wants a new Mustang. So if he does 25 sales, he's going to make $62,500, and I've got this right around $2,500 a sale. So that's his goal for the quarter. And then Blake, his goal is 40 sales, and he wants to pay for 1 year of all of his kids' college. Blake's got 3 kids in college, 33 grand a kid, and he wants to pay for 1 year of it in 1 quarter of sales at this company. All right, so let's go into scorecards. All right, and this is a post that I made yesterday. So if you guys scroll up on my profile, you're going to see a post I made yesterday where I explained this. And so I'm going to walk through it again for the podcast, because I believe it's incredibly important. Notice that we are setting these rocks based on the individual salespeople's goals, not our company goals. Again, we are basing these rocks on the individual salespeople's goals, not our company goals. It is our job to have enough salespeople to hit our company goals, not our salespeople's job to have enough sales to hit our company goals. I'm going to say it again because it's so freaking important. These rocks are based on our salespeople's goals, not our company goals. Our job is to have enough salespeople to hit our company goals, not for the salespeople to have to hit the company goals. All right. Sales manager is a little different. We want to incentivize him on the company goals. We want to make sure he has big enough goals so that he's in line with them. But the individual sales reps, the only thing that they should be worried about is, I want to hit my personal goal so I can buy my new Mustang. I want to hit my personal goal so I can buy that investment property. I want to hit my personal goal so I can put my kids through college. All right. So now that that's established, let's take a look at these scorecards, right? So we got our rocks in place. Let's go look at these scorecards. Oh, this is where I get geeky. I get real geeky, guys, because this is just a beautiful thing to me, right? And so what I love about 90 is what I love about EOS in general and these concepts that Gino Wickman teaches is that you can do this all yourself in a spreadsheet. You don't need a software like this. But here's the thing. This software is $16 a user. And then think once you get up to 5, it's like 14. And it's so cheap, guys. And when it comes to Excel spreadsheets, I'm not the best at it. but I have more Excel spreadsheets with more reporting over 13 years than you can ever imagine. That's because I paid somebody else to put it together because I didn't want to deal with it. But I had the vision for the scorecard, right? And so when we go through these scorecards, we've obviously got these sales targets. We've got a goal here in this column. These sales targets are in line with their rocks. Okay, if you're telling me you want a certain amount of money so you can get a certain thing, I'm going to reverse engineer that certain amount of money to make sure that you're hitting your sales goal every week. So at the end of the quarter, you hit your rock, your overall target, right? And so when we look at Blake here, if Blake wants to make 2 sales a week, he's got to have a 20% conversion rate. He's got to have 10 appointments a week, which means he needs a 10% prospecting conversion rate in order to get 10 appointments out of 100 prospecting activities. Okay. And so one of the first thing that needs to be on the scorecard is the controllable action that is going to get you the result that you want. One of the things that I hate to see is a scorecard and all it has is sales on it. Sales per day, sales per week, sales per month, and that's it. That makes no sense to me. I would almost rather have a scorecard that had nothing but controllable actions on it and no sales results. Why? Math is why. Okay? If company-wide, we know that we convert at a 20% conversion rate, so every 10 appointments we have 2 sales, right? And we know that if we knock on 100 doors or have 100 outbound calls or whatever the prospecting activity is, that we will get 10 appointments, then that's just simple math. Now we just got to reverse engineer their goals according to that. Okay. So to make it simple, I gave everybody a prospecting activity goal of 100. Okay. So Blake was able to make 100 outbound calls. He was able to get 10 appointments from it. So what's nice about this is most of these, and I'll widen this out so you can see the formula and kind of how this works. Most of these are just regular measurables, right? So you set up the measurable name, in this case, prospecting activity, Blake. You set up a description if you need one, and then the goal, the number and the amount, right? And then goal orientation rule, greater than or equal to goal. So these are all things that you're setting up so that it goes green whenever they hit their goal, right? Just a quick look at that. All right. So then when you look at conversion rates, these are what we call smart measurables. So I'm putting together a formula. And again, this is just a fancy Excel spreadsheet for dummies like me that don't like doing Excel spreadsheets. You know what I'm saying? And so all I have is Blake's appointments divided by his activity amount gives me his conversion rate. And I have to multiply it by 100, so it comes out as a percent here. Okay, so I know that if he knocks 100 doors, he gets 10 appointments. It's a 10% conversion rate. That's easy math, right? And so this is how I'm going to hold the guys accountable on a weekly basis. So I'm going to have what we call a sales L10 weekly. And I am going to, as a sales manager, or in this case, Billy Bob, he is the sales manager. He is going to be covering these numbers. Every week, we cover the controllable actions that you need to take in order to hit your sales goal, in order to hit your rock, which you said you wanted so you could buy your Mustang or your investment property. I cannot say this enough. If you are not managing your salespeople this way and filling in the gaps that they need help on, then you need to start today. I'm 100% convicted on this. Been doing it for 13 years. Somehow my team and I, based on these structures and these strategies, were able to manage 100 plus salespeople at any given time using this. And it's insane when you think about it. But as long as you have your KPIs in place and you know their goals and you reverse engineer those goals, you're all on the same bus moving in the same direction. And guess what? If in this case, our team goal, so we can go down here and see our team prospecting activity, or our team appointments and our team sales. So like if I have multiple teams and multiple trainers managing those teams, I can now go and I can have another division, which is sales leadership. I can have multiple teams on there and their average numbers on there. So I can be managing those leaders instead of managing individual salespeople. And then I can go to the individual teams and see, okay, who's not pulling their weight, and find out, hey, Tom here, and then this is just 1 week that we're showing right here, but imagine that the last 3 weeks, Tom's only hit 60 to 80 outbound calls a day. Okay, so this is where the accountability comes in. So we're in a meeting with Tom. I'm like, hey Tom, how come you're only hitting 60 to 80 outbound calls a day? Well, this and that, and excuse after excuse, whatever the case is. And so I'm gonna say to Tom, you said you wanted to buy your first investment property. You wanted to be the first person in your family to buy your first, or buy an investment property. You wanted to be the one from your family, change things for your kids, have this investment portfolio and hand it over. And company wide, if you knock on 100 doors, if you do 100 outbound 100 outbound calls a day, that if you do that, on average, you'll close 2 deals a day. And if you close 2 deals a day, that's $65K for the quarter. And your burn rate, according to what we talked about when you got hired, is about $30K a quarter. So that'll give you $35K for down payment on that investment property that you want. And all the other things taken into account too, taxes, all that good stuff, right? And so you're holding them accountable to a controllable action that'll get them what they said they wanted. That's completely different than saying, hey, everybody at this company gets 2 sales a week. Everybody at this company is pulling their weight. Why aren't you? You know what I'm saying? That's a completely different conversation that you get to have because you know their numbers, you know what they want, and you're able to show it to them and hold them accountable for it. Again, the top of the scorecard is a controllable action. All right, so what about real sales management? What about actually managing these people and making them better and pouring into them and helping them be better salespeople? Well, that's where these conversion rates come in, right? So if we look at Blake's numbers, he's converting 10% into appointments, and then he's converting 20% into his 2 sales a week. So he's in good shape, right? He's nailing it. Ryan, on the other hand, went out. He's doing the work. So this is where you can really figure out, all right, Tom's not doing the work. Ryan's doing the work. That's why Tom's not getting sales. Ryan's struggling, but he's at least producing something because he's doing the work. So I can see that in here. All right. When you talk about minimum expectations, we have a standard. Now you're measuring that standard. Okay. So Ryan is converting 6.7% of his prospecting activities into appointments. He's getting 8 appointments a week. He's converting 12% of his appointments into a sale. All right. So both of Ryan's conversion rates are under the mark. But what does that mean? Well, the first thing it means is his prospecting conversion rate is way under the mark. So I need to talk to Ryan about the conversations he's having in these outbound calls. I need to go and listen to his recordings from the calls. Or if he's door knocking, I need to go and listen to his serial recording. Drop Zero. That link will be in the show notes. Zero's fantastic. You can put it in your pocket, your phone in your pocket, and it'll AI record all your pitches from the day. And so you'll know how many pitches you had, what were the best closing lines, all that good stuff. It does an analyzation process in words per minute, all that good stuff. But anyways, so I know that as far as Ryan's closing ability, that may just be a fluke because he only had 1 sale, but his conversion rate on prospecting is pretty bad. So I need to work on his intro and his qualify of these prospects into appointments, right? And so I need to work on that appointment setter script, that outbound call trying to get appointments. I need to work on that. And that's showing me that, and let's just say he went in, he got 2 deals. So we'll change this here. That'll update there. So out of 8 appointments, Ryan closed 2 deals. He's closing at a 25% conversion rate. So Ryan is a closer, but he's not a good appointment setter. So even though he's got less appointments, he's closing the same deal as Blake up here, but Blake is a good appointment setter, so he doesn't have to outbound as many people. And so when you talk about working on certain sections of these salespeople's pipeline, this is where you get the data to do that. And a sales manager can isolate certain sections of a salesman's game and start working on that and reinforcing that. That is sales management. having salespeople come to you and telling you their feelings for the day, and you trying to accommodate those feelings and pump them up and get them in the right mindset. That's not sales management. That's only like 10% of the game. Most of sales management comes from having the data in order to understand how to. Everybody doesn't need the same training. If you're doing the same thing for everybody as a sales manager, you're getting it wrong. Everybody does need customized training. It's like a teacher. A teacher has an overall lesson for the day, and then she starts working with the students one-on-one individually. And here's what we can do for Ryan long term. We can pair him up with Blake for a day. He can shadow Blake for a day, and Blake can show him how he's getting such a 30% higher conversion rate on prospecting activity than Ryan is. And he can show him, pair him up. So you can start pairing people up according to their strengths and weaknesses and having them work together for a day. And if you've hired properly, they're going to be all about that conversion rate, right? And so Billy Bob is managing his salespeople this way. And so he's doing pretty well on that. But he's recognizing, hey, we're not getting enough appointments. We're not getting enough sales because of that. And so I need to up my ad dollars on the marketing, or we need to start having a prospecting activity of 120 so we can start meeting this mark, right? Wrong. Billy needs to hire another salesperson if he wants to hit that 6 sales a week number. Obviously, three salespeople now. We're improving the salespeople, we're managing them. But long term, if Tom keeps putting up these 70, 80 a week numbers when the target is 100, I know that Tom isn't willing to do the work in order to achieve the result, right? He may have a good week every now and then because he decides to work, but over time, you're going to see that Tom isn't willing to put in the work. And so you'll be able to fire with confidence based on the data, based on the controllable actions that Tom is not doing in order to achieve his goal that he said he wanted. We achieve our goals here at this company, and we do that by controllable actions. Now, here's the beautiful thing. If it's just Tom's ability and he's knocking it out and he's doing 100, 110, 120 prospecting activities every week, well, then I know it's either his appointment setting script or it's his closing ability, and I can work on those things. If I'm recording his conversations and I'm using AI to analyze them, now I know, hey, Tom's struggling with the price objection. Tom's struggling with the quality objection. Tom's struggling with the reputation objection, whatever the case is, because it'll start analyzing what he's not closing and what he is. So this is how we can get really geeky in this kind of stuff. And this is what builds great sales teams in my mind. 100% this is what builds great sales teams. And so when you look at 90 as a software and what it can do for you, and again, I've been talking about 90 so much because I was at Apex Entrepreneurs, and we're having these conversations about these controllable actions and these scorecards, and I realized right away nobody is using EOS, which is silly. Everybody knows about EOS, but you're not freaking using it. You're all about the crystallizer score, knowing if you're a visionary or an integrator, and that's cute. That's awesome. You know what I'm saying? But most of you don't have an integrator in your company, so it really doesn't matter if you're one or the other. You got to do both. Am I wrong or am I wrong? Am I right or am I right? And so if you're having to do both, then you need to know how to execute this. And so I wanted to make sure, when we did our breakout session, I took over and I helped the guys or the people in that breakout with their scorecards. And I did it because this is what I've been doing for clients for the past year. This is what I've been doing for my own business for 13 years. And so I wanted to make sure that I went over this stuff. Okay, so that's the accountability chart. That's the rocks that we're going to set, and then we reverse engineer for the scorecard. So let's talk about the meetings, right? And so right now, for most of the companies that I'm doing this for, I have a leadership meeting. And that's typically between me and the owner. I have an operations meeting. So that's operations-centric staff. And then I have a sales meeting right now. These are the two divisions that do the most work in the company. So, and it's a once-a-week L10. And the L10s are structured this way. And this is headlines is normally right after scorecard, but they do a little different in this structure. And so I'm going to redo it later. But anyways, so the structure is this in these meetings. Let me start a meeting so I can kind of show you guys this. And so if we start a leadership, well, let's call it an ops meeting. We start an operations meeting. In the beginning of the meeting, we're just going to go over good news. Good news can be business or personal, doesn't really matter. We want to go over positive things. It sets the tone for the meeting. We get to build a little rapport with our team before we ease into the scorecard. The next piece is the scorecard, right? And so we'll put the sales here. So this is where I'm holding my people accountable to the metrics, right? And some of the metrics on the operations side. So if we're talking, fulfillment timelines, if normally projects complete in 21 days, that's a plus or minus KPI, right? You guys know the KPIs in your operations of your business, so you can set those on your scorecard. And so on the sales side, obviously, it's going to be the prospecting activities. These are controllable actions. And so I'm going to hold them accountable to those. And so if I see, okay, we got an issue with the conversion rate here, well, I'm going to come here and I'm going to make it an issue. So what I love about this structure is this is not about calling them out. It's finding a solution to their problem so that they can get their kids' college paid, whatever the case is, right? And so you should be able to go through the scorecard about 5 minutes, identify the issues because they're not hitting the goals or whatever the case is. And so Tom's obviously got a conversion rate issue there too. So we're going to cover that, right? And then Ryan's not setting up enough appointments because of the conversion rate issue. And so we can kind of point to this conversion rate thing. But on Tom, we can point to the prospecting activity. So I'm going to create an issue from that too, right? And so you create your issues from the data. And then you review your rocks. Like, okay, these issues were created because we're not on track with our rocks. Let's just say Tom's off track because he's not doing the work. We talked about this. Ryan's on track. Blake's on track. They're both hitting 2 sales a week. They're on track for their targets. If they continue with that, they will hit those rocks, right? And so do we need to create an issue from that independent rock of Tom's? No, we've already created one for the prospecting activity, which is we've identified as the problem. All right, so now we're going into headlines. I like headlines right after segue. It makes more sense to me. And you can customize this agenda as long as you hit all these things, right? So headlines are things that do not need to be talked about. They just need to be informed. The team needs to be informed of them. That's it. Anybody on the team can create a headline. And so whenever you're working throughout the week and you realize, oh, there's an issue, you don't go in that person's office and ostracize their time and talk about the issue and try and figure it out just one-on-one. You add it to the issues list in 90 so that y'all cover it in the next meeting. Now, obviously, this is something that is not urgent, right? But it's like, hey, our conversion rates from our sales teams are pretty low. It's causing our marketing dollars to go up. And so that's an issue. So I put that in the operations issues. And we talk about it in operations and we make sure, hey, there's nothing we can do to make that better. All right, we're going to move it over to sales issues so that they can cover it in their sales meeting, right? And obviously, the operations key player in the company or the COO or the integrator, or if it has to be the visionary, they're going to be in both of those meetings and be able to go over that with you or go over that in the issues list. Okay, so once we go over headlines, then we're going to go over our to-do list, right? These are to-dos that were created from the week before that typically have a deadline of this week to get done. The to-dos are the solutions to the issues. Say it one more time. The to-dos are the solutions to the issues. So you don't mark an issue as solved until you assign a to-do for someone to complete that, okay? And so that's what the to-dos are there for. We're reviewing the to-do list. If any of the to-dos are past due, because they all have a due date on them. It's like SMART goals. We're making sure it's measurable, achievable, timeline, all that good stuff, right? So the to-dos, we need to make sure that that they're done on time. Now we get into the issues. This is the meat and potatoes of the meeting. And this is how you're managing your business, right? This is the meat and potatoes of the meeting. You need to keep it solution-centric. This is not where, Ryan's not converting his prospects. It's Ryan's fault, Ryan's problem. No, Ryan has not got the training he needs to convert enough prospects so his conversion rate is high enough. That is how we approach these things. And so let's pair Ryan up with Blake. Blake has a great conversion rate from his prospecting activities, and that's the solution. So I created to do for Blake. Just come in here. I created to do for Blake, and Blake train one day with Ryan. That's all it is right there. And what do we see when we come to the scorecard the next week? Maybe Ryan's conversion rate has increased 1% or 2%. Maybe, and then that to-do's been done. We mark it off. We're good to go. And then one of my favorite parts about this is that everybody gets to rate the meeting. Again, the rating is about the meeting, not the facilitator, not the integrator, not the operations person that's running it. It's not about the person that's running it. It's about the team's ability to have a good meeting. And that's what you're rating. And so the rating's 1 to 10, and then you average out those ratings. And what you'll see long term, once you finish, everybody will get an email with a summary from the meeting. And this was my favorite thing. And this is the crescendo of this episode in my mind. This is my favorite thing that would happen all the time. Let me get this off the screen. And this is the crescendo of the episode in my mind. I would get L10 summaries from my departmental teams throughout the week. And I would just get the email and I would get to see, all right, here's the good news. Here's what they covered. Here's what they accomplished. Here's the issues they discussed. And guess what happened in my leadership meetings? I was ready for the leadership meetings because I could see there's still pending issues from the marketing meeting or from the sales meeting or from the operations meeting, whatever the case was. And so what this does is it takes all that craziness that's going on in here. You're trying to remember every day, and that task list you're trying to update every day, and it organizes it, it systemizes it, and it silos it, and it scorecards it. So you know the health of every department, you know the major issues in every department, you know the key players that are winning on the scorecards in every department. You now have a real pulse on your business, in my mind. And so this episode's been all about building blocks part 2. There is so much more to unpack in this software that I haven't even gone through yet. And that's one of the things that I wanted to make sure you guys knew. Look, EOS is a fantastic brand. The concept that Gino Wickman came up with, you know, a lot of you were already operating it before EOS came out because you were natural born integrators. I know we had scorecards and beautiful recruiting reports and sales reports and all these things before EOS got trendy and popular. But what they did is they made it palatable to the masses. And when I say masses, I mean business owners, right? Obviously, those aren't the masses, but they made it palatable and understandable with books like What the Heck is EOS, with Rocket Fuel, with Traction, you know what I'm saying? But then they franchised it, right? And so I looked into it and I looked at becoming an integrator and or an EOS implementer is the trademark term. And one of the first things that they told me was, okay, but if you do this, that can be the only thing that you advertise, which made no sense to me. I'm already consulting, I'm already coaching, you know, so why would I pigeonhole myself into just being an EOS implementer? It doesn't make any sense in my business. And so that's the only reason that I haven't gone after that, because I don't want to be pigeonholed. And so, but I will preach and I will promote softwares like 90 and systems like EOS all day because entrepreneurs need them. And EOS can become your quasi integrator. You know, they make it sound super complicated, but it's not. Just get the software, fill in the blanks. It'll walk you through it. They have tutorials and testimonial. Just fill in the blanks and you guys can start executing on this stuff. So that's been your Building Blocks episode part 2. I'm looking forward to our episode coming out on Monday. This one will come out Friday morning, the 2nd, and then Monday, the 5th, will be, I'm drawing a blank, Tommy DeLong. On Monday, the 5th, it'll be Tommy DeLong. He'll be talking about his faith, his new coaching business, and everything. It's a great episode. Really one for the family man, you know what I mean, that has all the weight on his shoulders. And we're talking about kids and faith and the demands of entrepreneurship and juggling all that. So I'm looking forward to you guys hearing about that as well. Thank you. And as always, let's get building.